Ms. Unica J. She is the founder and president of Rewrite 365. She's going to help us get this done. Today, we are talking about how to execute. It is time to get it done, y'all. It is time to get it done, y'all. It's time to execute. That's what we're talking about today. Thanks for watching. You're watching The Pivot with Stephanie Humphrey. And today we are talking about how to execute. And I am thrilled to have our guest here. It is Ms. Unica J. She is the founder and president of Rewrite 365. She's going to tell us all about what she does, and she's going to help us get this done because, you know, we've had our plans, we got our vision, we got our mindset, we've done everything we need to do to get to this point. But I think sometimes we do tend to get stuck. So, Unica, thanks so much for being here with us on The Pivot today.
It is my pleasure. It's such an honor to be able to share space with you and to even share whatever it is that you would have me to share with your listeners and the folks who watch this. So I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I grew up on the training side of the house in corporate America and then stepped into the dark side, which we call operations. I walked away from that about 6 years ago and started my own firm. And what we do at Rewrite is we help organizations and individuals rewrite their story. We have three key focuses: strategy, helping people walk through putting together their corporate strategy and then executing on those strategies. We also do culture. And so we work with organizations to actually help them get awards like the top places to work in Philadelphia or great places to work in New York. And so we get all of the criteria, get that, and then do a needs, what would you call it? We do a culture scan of the organization, where their deficits are, and then write a plan and execute that plan within the organization for them to be able to get those awards. And then the third leg of the business is leadership development. And so we have a host of things there, from executive coaching to a couple of communities. I have a community called Lead Her for African-American women who lead. And we also have some other learning communities. So that piece, that leadership development piece, has training and coaching and community in that. And so we have now 4 coaches, 2 facilitators, and 1 trainer and an office person. So it's been a cool ride over the last 6 years.
Awesome. Awesome. So the team is in place. Everything is popping. I have to tell the story, though. You know, we met at a friend's house over some New Year's many, many moons ago, where she was hosting a vision board party. And I had actually never done a vision board. I was familiar with the concept, but I had never actually gotten together with a group of women and, sat down and really thought about what I wanted my next year to look like and things like that. And I just was so struck by your presence, number one, the things you told us. I think I still have the little worksheet you gave us somewhere that I refer to often. And I definitely still have my vision board tucked away. And there was just something, when you meet that person and there's just that something and you just remember them. They're very memorable to you. They make an impact on you and your life in a very short amount of time without a lot of, connection and contact and conversation. Because I don't think we chatted that much either. But, a lot of the things you said, it's so funny. I got to tell you this story too, really quick. Just yesterday, and I kid you not, I was having lunch with a friend and, she was having some problems and we were both sort of sharing our challenges, in the moment. And we were talking about friendship. And I used your analogy about some friends get to go to the living room, some friends get to the kitchen, some friends make it all the way into the bedroom. And you got to you figure out where those friends need to be, in your life as you move along and understand that sometimes that might need to change. So I thank you for that. And again, I think that just speaks to the impact you had on me at that event in that moment. And I felt very strongly when I was putting this particular episode together that you were the person that could help us get stuff done. If there was anybody that I knew that I could call on, you would be that person. So again, I'm just very, very happy to have you here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It was an amazing night. Like I remember it was an interesting invite, to come to someone's house, right? And so I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'll come. But when I came in there, the level of power, and I remember you having this presence without saying anything. And I was like, oh, she's cool. I was like, I want to know her. So I was so glad we ended up connecting on social media, even though we don't talk, like I follow and pay attention and watch and all those things. And so it feels like we're connected and like we've had 1,000 conversations, even though this is the first one we're truly having together since that time.
We are connected. We are connected. So let's dive in. Let's talk about it. Why is it so hard, I think, for some people to pull that trigger, to actually finally get started? They've done all the work. They're ready to go by all intents and purposes, but they can't quite pull that trigger, and they never actually start the process of executing their plans. Why is it so hard for some people to do that?
So I think based on just things I've experienced either in the executive coaching space, my own personal life and things I've overcome, and even being in corporate America, it comes down generally to two things. One is fear of failure, and the second is fear of success, right? So there's that piece where it's like, well, this looks good on paper. It sounded good when I was writing it out. I think I've thought through all of the things that could happen, but what if it doesn't work? And that fear of failure drives, that's kind of the tree, if you will, for procrastination. That's the tree for overthinking. That's the tree. Like that fear of failure just puts people in a place where there's a total blockage of them being able to move forward because they are anticipating all of the worst case scenarios, even though they've planned for them, even though they've put in there, if this happens, I'll do this. And so the fear of failure is one. The other one's a little more interesting, right? Because it's that fear of success. What if it does work? What if the business does take off? What if I am able to write the book? What if I am able, and we're talking about these big goals, but even on my day, what if I do start going to the gym? What if I do start taking the steps to be a better parent or a better spouse or a better citizen? What does that look like? Because success requires work. It's not just a one and done.
Yes, it does. Say that again. Say that again.
It requires work.
Success requires work.
Yes. And I think people get stuck because it looks so good. I mean, I have a ton of these books that you've written in and you've gotten your dreams together and you're planning things out. It's cute in the book. Is you go, to TJ Maxx and grab a new journal. It looks good there. But whether it's fear of success or fear of failure that's holding you back, once you start executing, the mess comes up. It becomes messy. And you have to get your hands dirty in the part of execution. And I think that's what really holds people back.
Wow, you said a mouthful. I think that's very true. I talked a lot about the idea of in my uncertainty episode, the idea that I was uncertain about doing this show because I knew it was going to require something of me that I didn't necessarily feel like I was ready to give. It was going to require me to be vulnerable. It was going to require me to put myself out there in a way that I hadn't in the past. I could keep folks at arm's length when I'm just giving them tech tips. But when I have to sort of invite them into my personal experience, it's a little different story. And to your point, a part of that was, what if this actually works? Like, what if people really like this and respond to it? And I got to keep doing it over and over and over again. I'm like, I don't know if I'm really ready to do that. I don't know if I need y'all all up in my business like that. So that was definitely on my mind as I was thinking about, whether or not this was even going to happen. But I think ultimately I'm a servant, and I felt like, if this can help anybody, just the one person that just stumbled upon it, at that one time and caught 5 minutes of it and really decided to make some sort of change in their life, then it would be worth it just for that. So, but yeah, that fear of success is real. And the idea that success requires work, because I feel like I may be in a season right now where things are going pretty well. I got this going on and this is going on. But that don't mean I get to just sit back and coast now. I can't put my feet up. You got to keep your foot on that gas. New levels require new, levels of effort, and it really does, or it can hamstring some people sometimes. It
Absolutely.
really can. That's a really interesting concept. So when do you know that it is time to start executing? Is there a time? Is there a point when, you can feel as if you've done all of the preparation and you've done all the things and that it's time? When do you know that? Or do you ever know it?
So here's the thing. I think it some of that part, excuse me, it depends on the person. And this, and let me tell you why. There are some people that execute and they don't need it to be all put together. Like I've seen people online that will go out and just go and do the thing. And if they fall down, they're like, oh, that didn't work. I'll try something different. And so they just have this fearless approach to executing, right? Mm-hmm. And it feels okay for them in their soul. And then, they're wired that way. They're more risk taking. They're ready to rock and roll. For those folks that may not have, that full cup of risk, where like, I'll do anything. Mm-hmm. Once you've planned, if you find yourself unable to continue to write on that plan, it's time to execute. There's no other piece that's waiting for you except for you to hit go. And to start it. And so if you don't have, if you're a person that, I just move forward, I'm ready to go, you may test, and that may be part of your execution. I think one of the biggest things when you're thinking about when to execute is breaking it up in your mind that it's this huge button, like I got to hit boom, and now I'm going. There's little pieces of the plan that have to happen. So, I always joke with people, at the beginning of the year, everyone wants to lose weight, just about, people are there going to the gym. But I'm like, it's not setting foot in the gym is not when the execution starts. When I make up my mind, when I buy the membership, when I get the clothes that I'm going to wear, then I get in the car, then I get to the gym. Now I've started that one time, then I go back and I got, so there's all little executions that happen before you actually achieve the goal or you actually complete the plan. And so I think knowing at what point you are in the journey and when is a good place for you to get one of those small victories, because those small victories fuel you for the next execution. And even if you have a failure, then you just pivot and make a decision on what are you going to do next to continue your execution. So I think it's different for each person on when it is. But if you find yourself sitting too long, you go back and look through those journals and you're like, oh man, this was a great plan for me. I thought I was going to do this, but I never did it. Mm-hmm. To execute on those. Once you've written it out and you look at that and you say, this is good, go and do it. then it's time.
That's a good rule of thumb. I think I fall somewhere in the middle there. I definitely don't like to wait. I'm very, very impatient. So I don't like to wait for anything. But I'm not just going to jump out the plane and build a parachute on the way down either. I'm definitely not one of those people. I'm like, I need to know a little bit about, what's going to happen and, some of the steps involved and things like that. So I think I'm somewhere in the middle, but I definitely am typically ready to go head first into whatever it is. And it's just like, let's go. After this, more of my impatience, I think, than just wanting to reach a goal or anything. It's just wanting to get done. That's a good indicator though. That's like a good measurement.
Put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. And you eat him, you poop him.
Oh my God.
So what?
We talk about that whole idea of analysis paralysis, where people think that as soon as I take this next class, or as soon as I get this next certification, or as soon as I get, it's always as soon as and I have to do this one more thing, and I have to check this one more thing, or research this one more thing. And it's just like, do you really, did you need that? I really want people to get out of that mindset that there's one more thing, because there's probably not. I mean, if you're really being honest with yourself, I think, you're probably ready, to your point, to at least get started on one part of the plan. I think everybody usually has something that they could be doing to get those wheels moving forward, even if the entire plan's not necessarily all together just yet. So.
Absolutely. I think there's one thing that I didn't share, is that when you're looking at your plan and you come to a point, like let's say you have a huge goal that you've broken down into smaller goals. And so each of those require you to do some things to execute. Mm-hmm. When I'm looking at that, one of the things I ask myself is there a wall or a way? If there's a wall, that just requires me to do some more planning to remove the wall so I can fully execute. If there's a way and I can see a pathway to me being able to execute, the only thing that's in my way at that point is me.
Ooh.
And so I have to deal with myself, because it's not a wall, it's me. So.
Boy, see, now I'm gonna be saying that to people next time. They said, a wall or a way? Just dropping gems. Okay, so now what would you say the mindset shift is between planning and executing? Like, where do you need to get your mind to sort of move to that point? I mean, I think this is a little kind of just an extension of the last question, but I think there may be something there. I felt like there could be something there as far as mindset goes, that could help people sort of make that shift. So where do you see that mindset shift happening, and how do you see that happening? So
for me, it happens, and even with clients that I'm working with, before you start the plan, mm-hmm. right? Even if I'm talking to a room full of C-suite executives, do you really want this? Can you afford to do it right now? Does it make sense? What else is on your plate? Because the plan, the reason why we don't execute oftentimes is we didn't have enough skin in the game. It wasn't as important to us as we thought it was. Other people are doing it, so we should probably do it. It just makes sense right now. But it wasn't something that we actually wanted, or that we had a true core desire. And I see this in organizations and with individuals. So the mindset change has to happen in the beginning before you put pen to paper, start typing, talking it into your phone, whatever the case may be. And I have this saying, if it's not a heck yes, it's a no. Mm-hmm. So if it's not, if I'm looking at this, do you have space in your life or in your company or, in your family to plan for this thing to actually be executed? Because it may not be a no, it may be a not now. Right. It could be something I say, okay, I remember before I left corporate to start my business, I wanted to do it like when I was 30. Mm-hmm. I was like, I want my own business. It just didn't make sense. I was raising 5 kids. Like, it was just I would not have been able to do the things I'm doing now. So it was a not now. But I didn't lose track of that goal that I had, because I just knew the season wasn't correct. So as you're thinking about planning, as you're thinking about establishing your goals, in order for you to execute, you have to really want it, but it has to be the season. And I don't mean this philosophical thing. Seasonality can be measured. You can look and say, okay, do I have too many things going on right now? Do I have the space and the time commitment to be able to do what's required for this to take place? Do I have support? Mm-hmm. Are there people that are going to say, hey, you know what, Stephanie, run out and do that. I got your back. I'm going to hold this down, or I can do this for you. I can step in these places. Because if you don't have those 3 things, chances are you'll never execute. You'll have all the beautiful journals with a bunch of plans that go undone because you didn't make that mindset shift in the first place.
Wow. So y'all heard that right. The mindset has to start right at the beginning. You have to know that this is what you want to do. If he wanted to, he would, as the kids on the internet say, or if she wanted to, she would. It really does that. I hadn't really thought about it like that. That really makes a difference in the way you approach the plan. It's like, is this something you actually want to do? Is this something you would do regardless of the other circumstances, or are you prepared? Are you set up for this? Is this the right time? And I like that you said that seasonality can actually be measured, because do you have the resources and the time and the support and all the other things in place, to get this done? I think a lot of people get stuck in the plan part and like, well, this is how it should work when I do get to execute it, but they don't actually think about that other part. Like, are you even prepared to make this happen? And we talked about that in, I think you do know Melinda Emerson. I had her on. Yeah. We talked about the plan before the plan, if you will. And the idea that some people spend more time planning their vacations than they do planning if they're ready to go out and make a change as big as, leaving their job or going back to school or starting a business or anything like that. And it's like, you really need to assess whether or not you have the resources across the board to even get this done. And then, is this something that you actually really want to do? So that makes a ton of sense. Y'all, you got to make sure your stuff is together. That's it. But it's multi levels, it's multiple levels. You can take all the classes, you can get all the certifications you want, you can do all the research, but there's levels to this, and a lot of things have to be in place for the execution to happen. So that makes a lot of sense. So we talked about this, but execution can obviously start while you're still in the planning stage. So how would you suggest people sort of manage that process if they're wanting to start because they feel like they're at that point, but they know that there are still other pieces that need to be like kind of laid out?
Yeah. So I think so when you're thinking about it, like, let's say we have this huge goal, even if the goal, let's do a small one. I'll play with, for the sake of simplicity, we'll look at like just weight loss, right? So if I say I want to lose 20 pounds, that's my goal. I want to lose 20 pounds by December of 2022. Okay. Now, the one of the challenges that people have in understanding how to break it out is because their goal in the beginning is not smart. They're not planning towards something that's smart. It's not specific. It's not measurable. It's not attainable. SMAR is not realistic, and it's not time bound. So me saying I want to lose 20 pounds by December 31st of 2022, that's attainable. If we look scientifically of how many pounds you can lose per week, whatever the case may be. Now, once I have that goal, in order for me to start executing, and let's say there's other things, that's kind of a big goal, right? That's 20 pounds. I can't wake up tomorrow and it be done.
Right.
Check the box. It's going to require some work along the way. So now I look and say, okay, Unica, I live my life in quarters. So everything for me is around the quarter. We are now in the third quarter. What do I need to do in this quarter in order for me to hit this goal, this 6-month goal, right? What do I need to do in this third quarter? Now I can take that quarter and say, well, wait a minute. What do I need to do in July? Okay, now I understand what I need to do in July, and I make a list. These are to-dos I need to do in July if I'm going to hit that December goal. Because now it makes it real intangible. It's not just this philosophical goal, that's a kind of floating out there. What do I need to do in July? And Stephanie, you take it a step further and say, what do I need to do this week? What do I need to do Wednesday? What needs to be done today? Well, I don't have a gym membership. Okay, I probably should research it. Am I going to do it at home? Am I going to buy one of the bikes? Am I going to subscribe to something? Do I want to be around other people? Now, today, the one thing that I can do to get closer to that goal or to start executing on that plan that I have to achieve what I want to do in December is today I'm just going to research gyms, local gyms, and see what the pricing is and see if I can afford to buy a gym membership, or do I need to subscribe to something, right? So it's as simple as taking whatever that goal is and taking it down to what is the daily action that needs to take place in order for you to execute. I'm already in the process of executing once I start. It's just then following it all the way through to the end. And so I think that where people kind of get stuck is they don't break it up. They don't think about what can I do today? I used to keep a Post-it on my laptop to say, what do you need to do today to leave your job? What do you need to do? And I used to just have what you need to do because I didn't need my CEO seeing the last part. But what do you need to do? And that became a filter, though, for me. And, I could walk in a store and they're having a sale and I may want to buy a bunch of things. No, you need to save the money. So what do I need to do today? Not buy the shoes, even though I want. not go on the vacation, even though my girlfriends are going. Why? Because I want something different in 3 years, or I want something different next week, or whatever it may be. But what do you need to do? That's how you can execute along the way.
Wow, man, I'm taking notes here because I have to admit, full disclosure, I am not the best at plan. I won't say planning. I guess planning is the word. I mean, I can execute all day, but I'm typically just, I don't know how to do. I'm not necessarily flowing with the wind blows, going with it, whichever way the wind blows. But my plan is always very loose, and it's not as structured as in 6 months I want to do this, so I need to be doing X, Y, and Z. It can be. I think sometimes when I do have a more smart goal to go towards, because and I talk about this all the time. I had a 3-point plan when I left my job. I needed to refinance my house. I wanted to get a smaller car, and there was a dollar amount that I needed to have saved, that I wanted to have saved before I would leave my job. So, I definitely didn't necessarily set a date to have it done, but it was just when those 3 things were done, that's when I was going to leave. So it kept me focused a little bit, but I definitely don't do enough of that sort of, here is the ultimate end goal, so let me back out of that 6 months, a year, 5 years, and do things every single day towards that goal. So I'm not as disciplined as I need to be with that just yet. But I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna work on it because we're having this conversation. I'm like, I feel like I can do it now. I feel like I could do it now.
Up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
What do people usually get wrong about execution?
Oh, there's so many different things. Let me think of a few
so much
that I want to share. I think one of the things is false execution, activity or busyness that isn't pulling through what you really want, right? Like, so for example, if we stick with the same example, I could say I'm executing because I'm at TJ Maxx. I don't know why I don't shout them out twice, but I'm at TJ Maxx and I'm buying more fitness clothes. And then I go over to Target and I buy some more pants. And then I saw a cute gym bag and I jump on Amazon and I buy a water bottle. And so that's a lot of action, but there are no results associated with that action. It's not really getting you, because now in July, on Wednesday, I've made the purchase of the clothing, of the bag and all that. So I feel like that felt good, right? Felt good to buy the things. I'm getting closer to it. On Thursday, I don't do anything. On Friday, I don't do anything. So those actions, that was just busyness. And so that's false execution, a false start, where people are saying, okay, some people think just by writing it in their journal, they're like, well, it said, write the dream down or write the goal down and give it a deadline. And now I'm there. That's not it. You haven't done the actual work. You're doing the busyness around the work, which is a pitfall for execution, because your body and your mind is giving yourself gold stars saying, I did something. I started. I bought the journal. I got a nice pen. I wrote it out. I even shared it with a friend. So what? And then what are you doing? What's next? And so I see people do that a lot, where they have these false starts and they get so excited about the false start. The other area that I see people, or a challenger, whatever that people do in executing, is they allow themselves to be overtaken by a failure in execution, right? So if we're using this same thing about weight loss, I got the clothes, I got the membership, I went to the gym. I went to the gym 3 times a week, and next week, then the week after I went all the times, I'm eating right. Then I go to a party. And now I had, they had chocolate cake. I didn't have one piece of chocolate cake. I had 3 pieces of chocolate cake. So now there's like this pothole on this journey that you hit, but the pothole doesn't stop the whole car from moving, right? It's just a momentary bump that now I have to say, okay, hold on. How do I get back on track? And so people will stop their execution because mentally they can't get past this small failure that they had in the execution process. You know, even if you think, I know you're in tech and I see you do a lot of things online. And so I see, I just got into Reels.
Okay.
For me. And so, I'll post one and I just still don't understand, maybe I need to consult, but I will post one and it's like 100 people look at it. I'll post another one and 20,000 people look. And I'm like, I put more work into one for it.
That nobody watched.
That was a process. I'm gonna need y'all to come see my work. That point though, imagine if I'm going to execute on doing, getting my Instagram following up or getting my Reels to a certain viewer, whatever that is, that one setback, that pothole, if I stop, then I'm never going to get to the real goal because one little piece of the execution didn't work. And I allowed that failure to overtake me and say, this was a dumb goal. The whole thing's stupid because I just didn't work. I ate the cake, so I'll never be able to lose the weight. No, you have to say, okay, now what did we learn there? Let's see, what time did I post that? Or what's going to be my strategy the next time I go to a party and they have cake? Because I don't want to keep having these same failures because I have a goal to get to or I have a plan that I need to execute on.
Right. That's so important for people not to let those things trip them up. And I see that a lot because I am in that space. I come across a lot of people that want to be content creators and influencers and things like that. And they're looking at their numbers and, well, my following's not growing and I put this post out and I did all this work and, yada, 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 and nobody's watching. I'm like, do y'all know how long I've been doing this little 60-second tech break that you see every week? And maybe sometimes I get a bunch of eyeballs. Maybe sometimes nobody watches it. I feel like it's my best work, but it got 12 views. But you had the consistent, and I tell them, to that point, I always tell them, I'm like, it's the consistency that is going to get you there. You may not necessarily do it right out the box. The likelihood that you're going to go viral is small. So you need to figure out what you can do consistently. Because how much am I supposed to post and when? And you can look at all, and this is for you as well. You can look at all those analytics all day. At the end of the day, those companies and their algorithms are what they are. We don't have a whole lot of insight into them. So, I think it's incumbent upon all of us, and, I'm speaking to you and to content creators in general, to post what you love, post what you think will help, and post when you are moved to do it. I think anything else is if you wanted to do it more, it's fine. If you wanted to do it less, it's fine. But anything else other than doing it for you and for the reasons you've decided you want to do it is going to drive you crazy. It really, really is. As somebody that has been on social media for way too long, and I get so caught up in that in my own head, it's like at the end of the day, you don't want to disappear, obviously, and be like, what, I ain't posting that more because these people ain't watching, whatever. You still want to be adding that value to whomever is watching, but it has to work within the framework of what you're doing and why you're doing it. So we'll chat offline about that because I think I can help you. But it definitely, social media in particular, is such a unique animal, and there's so many technical but also psychological things that go into it that it's easy to get caught up. It's so easy to get caught up, and I'm kind of on a journey now just to try to provide as much value as I can for the people that follow me, try to engage with the community I already have, and grow. But at the end of the day, I can only do so much and be okay with that thing. And that's all you can really do when it comes to that, honestly. Like, we can talk editorial calendars all day long, but at the end of the day, we can all only do so much when it comes to that. But sidebar.
Yeah, what you said, though, ties right in with execution, because you talk about, you have the third thing that I would add that is a problem with that I see people fall into with execution is comparison. You know what I mean? Like there's like you launched your business and your business, you only did 10 grand. And then you see someone posting receipts that they made 10 grand in an hour. And
right.
I must have done something wrong. And I've seen people go rework their whole strategy. And I'm like, just to your point, be consistent with what you're called to do, what feels right for you.
That's right.
Producing results more here, I think, than all of these intangible, these other ways that people are looking at it. So comparison on execution will, if you think about it, if we go back to the weight and I say, I want to lose 20 pounds. And, I'm in a bunch of these Apple Watch competitions with people, mostly guys, which I need to change because they run a mile and I'm like, they closed all their rings. Let me go back up.
Right.
Like you did one workout, hold on. But that comparison, depending on, if like I'm competitive, so that drives me. I'm like, okay, let me get out here and do some more stuff because you're not going to today. But on the flip side, if I'm like, oh my gosh, that person, went to the gym, they closed their rings. It's only 2:00. And I just, I got it. That stops people right there. And they will stop their execution and rework a plan to catch up with someone. And you're not playing with the same deck.
Exactly.
You don't have the same tools in front of you. And if I talk about weight loss, it could be metabolism, whatever. If we talk about launching a business, some people may have seed money. Some people may not. Some people may have nest egg, some people may not. Some people may have a mentor that's amazing. Some people may not. Some experience, some may not. You're comparing yourself with a bunch of variables that you have no idea of what's really behind what that person is doing. And so you're reworking a plan that you should have just stuck with your own stuff.
That's right. That's right. What they say, comparison is the thief of joy all day. My goodness. And social media is, that's a whole nother conversation, child.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
Any final thoughts or tips for our viewers?
So I think here's the thing. Whatever you really want, plan for it. Right. And you brought up a good point in the beginning where you said people spend more time planning their vacations than they do other things. It's the same. I see people get married. They plan for the wedding, but not for the marriage. I see people plan to give birth, but not have a plan for the child. You see people plan to launch the business, but they don't have a plan for the business, and you can find out, kind of test yourself, because if I was going to launch a business, so to speak, well, I always ask people, what type of business, or how are you going to file? How are you going to be registered with the state? Where will you incorporate? Where? And they're like, what?
Right.
No. Okay. Well, how are you going to?
I haven't thought about none of that.
Yeah. How are you going to make money? How are you going to? What's going to be your expense line? How much are you willing to spend? I don't know. I didn't think about that. And so there's not a plan that's too big for you to accomplish, but consider everything. And that's that seasonality, making sure that you have support, and making sure that it's something that within yourself you actually want. Once you've decided that, break it down and give every single piece a deadline. It's not only for your own accountability, but it feels so good when you check off that one thing.
You're not kidding, boy.
You run to the next milestone, like, okay, I did that. I can go do the next thing. I got the workout clothes. I got the membership, and I went one time and I didn't die. So I can go back. I would go back again. And that piece, when you break it down into those small chunks, 20 pounds is different than 2 pounds in a week, right? 20 pounds seems like a lot, but that 2 pounds, and even if I get to 1.5, if I get to 1.7, if I only lose 1, I still have some achievement that's there. And I think lastly, don't get discouraged if it doesn't go as fast as you thought. When I was in corporate, and as I'm working with, with executives now, and even in my own business, sometimes we have the wrong timeline. Sometimes we're like, I'm going to do 2 million by such and such time.
Right. Like, ma'am,
money.
Or you.
So those things, like you know, and sometimes it seems realistic. You may have a smart goal and you're like, that seems realistic. I have this run rate. I ran the numbers. I could do that if all the levers pull and go the right way.
Right.
But they may not in your plan. And it's okay to rework it. It is okay to rework that plan, but still head towards execution.
Fantastic. This was just an awesome, awesome conversation. I am so grateful and thankful that you spent some time to share with us. If you guys would like to follow Unica, she is on LinkedIn and Instagram at Unica J. Make sure you follow her. You see the type of knowledge and skill and wisdom she brings to everything. Unica, thank you so much for being on The Pivot.
Thank you.